Right, listen up fellas, open world games, they're everywhere now. Over the last decade there's been tons of them. All of your favourite franchises have gone open world. It's kind of insane. Everyone else has to be open world. It's getting kind of annoying. So I wanted to make this video because, it's an interesting topic. Why are open world games so boring now? Is it over saturation? Are open worlds just boring in general now? Is there less interactivity? Is it all about graphics? What is going on? And I also want to start talking about some linear games, why I start preferring them over open world games. Not just because I'm a reviewer. I have a second channel, by the way, Jack's Game Reviews, by the way. I'm just saying I've been reviewing games for 2 years. So I'm getting a bit sick of open world games because they're everywhere, mate. Fucking everywhere. Man, I'm really looking forward to that new Sonic game. I can't wait to just have a fun linear experience where I can just chill out and play level. Open world. Oh, I can't wait to play this new Metal Gear Solid game. You know, the games that are renowned for their really great levels and stealth mechanics. Open world. Fuck. Everything's open world. It's ridiculous. Now, just because a game is open world, it doesn't mean we should disregard it. Obviously, loads of open world games are actually really good. Even Ubisoft games have some decent open worlds every now and then. Some of them are obviously overly too large, like Ghost Recon Wildlands. I'll say it, wasn't a big fan of Ghost Recon Wildlands or Breakpoint. Just saying. Sorry to upset you. It is what it is. The reason open world games are starting to get really boring is because they keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, but game developers keep forgetting the most important aspect of an open world is to keep it interactive, make it fun to explore, make things interactable. You know, you're playing a game, you're not playing a bloody painting, are you? Let's play the game, let's interact with the environment. That's why I remember Batman Arkham Knight. I've reviewed all the Batman games, the first video I made on this channel. If you haven't watched it yet, go check it out. There, wherever it's going to be, bang. But I remember seeing Batman Arkham Knight gameplay back in 2015 and seeing Batman interact with the environment, grabbing some goon's head and just smashing him on the wall. Fucking phenomenal, amazing, interactive environments. It makes them more believable. But a lot of open world games now just kind of ignore that fact. The most you can do is vault over some ledge, and who cares about that? Let me blow something up, baby. Come on. You see, as more games adopt this open world idea, because that's what it is, it's an idea at first, the less unique experiences we're going to have, because when you make an open world game, there are very specific limitations you've got to abide by to keep an open world going, to make one, basically. Obviously, there's a limit to how big you can make it, but there's also a limit to how much interactivity you can have in open world if you keep making it bigger and bigger and bigger. Even Elden Ring, I've been playing a lot of Elden Ring, I've never completed it, but I'm playing it right now. Even Elden Ring, the open world is absolutely visually amazing, but you can't really interact with the environment that much, you know what I mean? You could break some things and everything, you've got to kill all the enemies and stuff like that, but there's no way to really interact with your environment apart from jumping on stuff. And I get it, there's limitations to it all, but where are all the unique experiences? Where are the new takes on the open world genre? Where are they? Over the last couple of years, I've become a bit jaded by it, you see. I've been finding myself leaning towards linear experiences over open world experiences. A great example is Sifu. If you don't know what Sifu is, a quick scratch. Ooh. Sifu is one of those fighting games that you can play. It's an action adventure. It's not really a fighting game. A fighting game is something like UFC 4 or whatever. I hate that game. That game sucks. But it's an action adventure game and it's all linear. You've got 5 levels. Awesome. The idea is you are 20 years old at the start of the game and you have to beat all 5 levels before you hit age 70. But every time you die in one of these levels, you age. So you're 20, you're going to go to 21. But it doubles every time. So if you get to 21 and you die again, you're going to go to 23. If you die at 23, you're going to go to 26. The stakes get higher and higher and higher. And it's such a cool, unique, linear experience. Like, you're just punching shit and you're dying, you're getting older and older and older, and it's just such a unique experience. But the main reason I'm making this video is this idea that popped in my head, and it's about Rockstar Games. Everyone knows Rockstar Games are the king of this stuff, okay? Open world games is kind of Rockstar's thing. Not because they have a level of interaction that's never been seen before. I'm still waiting for Red Faction Guerrilla to get wiped out for that. But because they know how to make an open world fun to explore. Look at Red Dead Redemption 2. What is that world? It's just a bunch of trees and grass and then a city turns up. You know what I mean? That's what it is. Of course you got the mountains too, but pretty boring to explore, I can't lie. But before Rockstar became the kings of open world, they did linear games. They did a racing game, funnily enough, if you remember the racing game. I can't remember what it's called, but they did make a racing game, which is pretty interesting. But the idea popped into my head. Red Dead Redemption 2 versus Max Payne 3. Now, I know Max Payne 3 is kind of disliked by the Max Payne fan base because of how different it is to the original 2 that are getting remakes, by the way. That's going to be fun. But I was playing Max Payne 3 the other day and I was just like, why did Rockstar give up on making linear games? This game is phenomenal. This came out in 2012 and it's better than some linear shooters you can play today. Obviously, third-person cover combat linear games have kind of become outdated. Not many people make them anymore, and that's reasonable. Like, what's the most popular one you can get right now? Like Gears of War or something? Gears of War 5 or whatever they're planning to do with Xbox. I don't really care. I liked Gears of War 5, by the way. I don't know why people hated it so much. I guess it took a different route. Anyway, fuck it. But I'm playing Max Payne 3, and it is absolutely one of the best linear experiences you can play because it does what it's meant to do so well. It keeps it very simple, it gets to the point, gives you levels to play in, and it gives you amazing shooting mechanics to have fun with for a solid 8 to 10 hours. It is 10 out of 10 material, even if the story is a little bit iffy. The story's still really good. I might make a full retrospective on that. I've already made a review on the other channel, but I want to make a more in-depth video, you know what I mean? So let me know if you want more of that, and stick with the sticky man by subscribing, you know what I'm saying? Yes, please, thank you, please subscribe, please, thank you very much. You see, Red Dead Redemption 2 is an absolute masterpiece. It's undeniable. It's one of the best open world games you can play, and it tells one of the best stories you could play in gaming today. The story of Arthur Morgan going, well, I'm not going to spoil it, but you guys know what I'm saying. The story is really good, but the story kind of becomes lost towards the end of the game because you've got this giant open world you want to explore, but the story requires you to go into these linear set pieces. A lot of the missions are just follow this guy to this specific area, shoot out, and then follow him again. And I know they want to show off the world, but the way they design their games, Rockstar games anyway, is they make this amazing open world that is just graphically insane and so gorgeous to look at. You just want to, you know what I mean? You just want to, but you can't do that because the linear missions force you away from it. You can't explore the areas within those missions because they give you such boundaries. And it's kind of like an identity crisis most of the time, because on the one hand, I want to explore the open world, but on the other, I want to experience this incredible story that they've written. But even on replays, it's just like, damn, I don't want to play the story at the bit. Let me do the open world stuff, but it's constantly pushing you to the next story mission. It's just like, give me a break, fellas. Come on, Jesus. But it kind of just makes me miss those linear experiences Rockstar made. I mean, Max Payne 3, I know I'm sucking it off at the minute, but if you haven't played Max Payne 3, go buy it. It's usually really cheap. It's one of the best experiences you're going to have. I genuinely believe that's one of the reasons why open world games are becoming a bit more boring, because every time a new franchise goes into this open world formula, they make the exact same mistakes Rockstar have been making for the last decade. It certainly doesn't help that games that are made by Ubisoft keep selling really well, especially when they also make the same mistakes as Rockstar. Look at Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I know I've already made my points clear about that game with my ranking, but the point is, their games have become so massive to the point where you don't want to explore them. Rockstar managed to make Red Dead Redemption 2 enjoyable to explore because it's not super huge. I mean, it's big, don't get me wrong, it's big, but there's enough there to explore and there's enough uniqueness to it where you don't get bored exploring another area. Whereas in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, everything you explore just looks the same. When you make an open world game, you have a limited amount of mechanics to choose from, okay? At least from what I've played. I'm not a game developer. I don't know if there's a special way to make an open world game where you have so many different options, but I've never experienced it, in my opinion, okay? Well, in my experience, that makes sense. Same thing, Jab. What are you talking about? But what I mean is, when you make an open world game, your ability to create missions that feel different from each other becomes significantly more difficult. If you make a linear game, you can force people down specific routes. Now, there is obviously the whole thing about players not wanting to be forced to do a specific thing, but if you buy a linear game, you've got to expect you're going to be forced into other things. It's linear, that's why it's called a linear story game or linear action game, whatever. But if you go linear, you have so many more opportunities to do something more creative to keep a player playing. You could add in a couple stealth missions when the last mission was super explodey, or you can add different mechanics for each mission, like Titanfall 2. Titanfall 2 is a brilliant example. Titanfall 2 has multiple missions. It's a short campaign, it's like 4 or 5 hours long, but each mission seems to have a new mechanic added in, whether it's time travel, or a bigger focus on BT, your Titan, or more focus on the pilot aspect of it, movement, etc. Everything you do in that game feels different, and every time you go and replay it, you never get bored because every mission is different. When you replay an open world game, you're doing the same thing over and over again for 20, 30, 40, and in Valhalla's case, 60 fucking hours, and it gets fucking boring, and then you're not excited for the next game, because you know if you buy the next game it's going to be the exact same as this game, so why would you want to do the same thing over and over again just in a different location? Why would you want to do that? It doesn't make any sense. But they still sell really well. But the point is, linear games have so many more opportunities to explore mechanics that we as players have never seen before, and there has been so many missed opportunities for innovation in this industry over the last 10 years because everyone has become so obsessed with being bigger rather than denser. You know what I mean? It's incredibly annoying. Look at all the top selling games. For example, in the UK, what's the top selling game every time of the week? It's FIFA. You know, that game that is an update every year that they charge you 70 quid for. A free update is 70 quid. That is what FIFA is. That sells really well in the UK. And then you've got the Sony exclusive games, usually, and then you've got a couple of open world games that do kind of well. And then maybe, on the off chance you may see a top seller that is actually a new innovative game, which tends to be made by indie developers, because indie developers are pushing this industry forward, and I'm going to make a bloody video on them soon because they deserve more attention. And that brings me back to the point I was trying to make. The point is, I'm saying that the gaming industry hasn't innovated, but it has, through indie games that don't sell that well, so the mechanics and the innovations that they bring to the industry just get left and forgotten because indie developers don't want to make the same thing over and over again because they're actually creative. They're not forced to make a specific thing for a specific audience. They do what they like, they get creative, they actually make art. Without getting too preachy about it, they make art. The indie games that do well, everyone's like, wow, this looks really cool, this looks so different, it looks so unique. It's because they're actually trying to make something new and innovative and artistic versus Battlefield 2042 that is the same schlock every fucking year. You know what I mean? Now, there is a silver lining to this. Some developers have noticed that a lot of people are kind of sick of open world games. I wouldn't be making this. I did some research just in case, because I wasn't going to make this video if there was no audience to talk to about it, because I'd just be talking to myself, you know what I mean? But even developers are noticing this trend, and you can see the changes slightly over time with games like God of War. They decided not to go fully open world, but to give you these smaller areas that you can explore that actually have some depth to it, some lore to it, a reason to explore it for story, or a new piece of armor, or a new ability, or something worthwhile. It's about the quality of the experience, and we can see that in God of War. Now, am I saying you have to ditch the open world aspect to things to give it more depth or to make it more interesting for players? Absolutely not. You can make an open world game that has the layers of a linear game without sacrificing people's ability to explore the world, because the overall point of this is that open world games are getting boring because developers are making these massive worlds and they're not letting you do anything in them. That it's not connected to the main story or the main missions. It's always just a linear mission, and you go to explore the open world, and then this next mission is going to have you travel halfway across the map because they want to show off the map without actually making a mission worthwhile of showing off the map. You know what I mean? There is a way to do it. I mean, Elden Ring has already done it technically. They gave you an open world, they didn't give you a main mission structure, you just went off and did your own thing. And yeah, that is a way to do it, that is a brilliant way to do it, but I also believe there's a way to tell an amazing story through the open world genre. You can do the main missions and you can do the open world, you've just got to find a way to combine them to create a game that is not separated between main missions and open world, but find a way to blend them both together without having to go to a specific marker on the map to travel to where you've already just come from, to do it again, and then travel to the place you've just went to before the mission started to go to another place to start the mission, and now you've got to do it all again and again and again, because that's the way it works. You go and look at Red Dead Redemption 2, you go to the camp, you get a mission, you go to another section of the map, and then to start another mission you have to travel all the way back, and to make it worse, they make sure that you can't fast travel unless you're in a specific spot. Fuck off! I know you want me to be immersed in your game, but at the same time, respect my fucking time, please, I beg. Now, am I saying that linear games don't have their issues? Obviously not. A lot of linear games are actually quite disappointing. A lot of linear games choose to do the same thing over and over again, just like open world games. A good example is the game Wet from 2010. All you do is go into a corridor and shoot a load of enemies. It's an Uncharted ripoff. But Uncharted mixes it up. It has platforming. It has these quieter sections where you're just walking around exploring this house or this museum or some historical place that they've made up for the game or took from real life. It splits it all up. That's why Uncharted is so good. That is why God of War is so good, because they managed to balance the repetitive nature of those games with these sections that, sure, some people don't like. I didn't like the Atreus stuff in Ragnarok either, but it's good to have it there because that's variety. That's real variety. Go to a specific place on the open world to do the exact same thing again and again and again. That's not variety. That's repetitive schlock, okay? That's not two things, it's the same thing, but two words. I fucking hate myself, I'm sorry. So what do you think? Do you think I'm chatting absolute nonsense? Let me know. I think I have made a fair few good points in this video. Maybe you have a few points of your own that I didn't talk about. Leave them down in the comments below. I'd really appreciate it. And if you disagree with me, please put your opinions down below. I'd love to have a conversation about it because I like open world games and I love linear games. That's just me. But hey, maybe we'll one day find a balance and the two communities of open world lovers and linear lovers can come together and just suck each other off. But yeah, like the video if you enjoyed, stick with the Sticky Man by subscribing, I really appreciate it, and we just got monetized. Thank you very much, I can't believe that, to be honest. 3 weeks, monetization. Thank you for watching, really appreciate it. See you in the next video.